Author and journalist John U. Bacon is out with a new book diving deep into one of the Great Lakes' greatest mysteries. Talking, of course, about the 1975 sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Nearly 50 years later, he is uncovering new details and personal stories that shed some light on what really happened that night on Lake Superior. We are joined this morning by one of my all-time favorites, John U. Bacon. John, good morning to you.
Derek, thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it.
Okay, so The Gales of November, the untold story of the Edmund Fitzgerald, that book, your book, comes out today. Why were you drawn to this story?
For a lot of reasons. Of course, if you grew up in Michigan, you're surrounded by these stories, and I remember the day it went down. I was in sixth grade. What really drew me to it was not the mystery of what happened, although that's part of the story, certainly, and we advanced that. It's the people. It's 29 men on that ship. I want to know who they were, what their lives were like, what were they like, what were their families like, how did it all go together, and why do we depend so much on Great Lakes shipping in ways I never even imagined.
So this is a story that has been dissected for 50 years. What new or surprising detail stood out to you when you were doing your research about this final voyage?
Well, a few things. One of the 29 families, I managed to get to about half of them. So I learned about the men on the ship, of course. I found 6 men who had been crew on the ship, obviously before it went down. They might be the last 6 left, who would tell me all about how the ship functioned, who was on the ship, and so on. Then we get into the details of how it went down, naturally. And some theories are advanced, some are diminished. The idea that the cargo hatches weren't sealed properly is absurd and unfair to the deckhands who did a good job. More likely is the possibility that the ship went over 6 fathoms shoal, which is only about 36 feet deep, of course. That might have done some damage that created the water getting into the ship.
Ooh, so okay, you're bringing up the hatches. So we've been doing some work ourselves here at Fox 2 about the Edmund Fitzgerald. Of course, it famously celebrating its 50th year anniversary, and that is one of those theories that people keep coming back to. But now you're saying in your research you do not think it was a hatch issue.
No, it's very unlikely. I talked to 2 crew members who were on the ship that year, and they say there's no way they go out without all 1,400 latches, dogged down, as they say, fastened to the cargo covers. So that is very unlikely, and what they found on the bottom of the lake, of course, is that they've been latched appropriately. So that theory is not very strong.
So during our research, we came across a cook on the ship. He was a cook on the Edmund Fitzgerald, but not when the ship went down. But his uncle and his dad were also on the ship, and his dad was on the ship, I think, when the Edmund sank. What were some of the personal stories that you came across that really stand out to you?
A couple quick ones. Captain McSorley was going to retire after this trip, and he did a bonus trip to get more money for his wife's medical care, so that's heartbreaking, obviously. Then you've got Eddie Binden, a 47-year-old assistant engineer. He bought a 25th anniversary diamond ring for his wife in Duluth, Minnesota, before the ship took off, and for some reason, Derek, gave it to a friend of his and said, please mail this to my wife. Instead of taking it on the ship, he's going to see her in 3 days in Toledo. So for some reason, he mailed it instead of taking it on the ship, and only Eddie Binden knows why. She wore that to the day she died.
Wow, that's fascinating. This route that they took when they left from Wisconsin and traveled through Lake Superior, and they were going to go all the way around to their destination there at the end of the eastern side of Lake Superior to Whitefish Point. That was a route that they had taken hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, for the ship. Was there anything within that storm on the day that took them down that really stood out to you?
A few things. One, they took the normal route, was the southern route, right past the Keweenaw Peninsula, where Michigan Tech is, straight to Whitefish Point. But on this day, they took the northern route, which is the top end of Lake Superior, to avoid most of the wind and waves. But when you do that, you give the storm a 14-hour head start to set up camp right in front of Whitefish Bay, where you're headed, like a catcher guarding home plate. So a good decision normally, but might have backfired in this case. And that storm was truly the storm of the century. 100-mile-per-hour winds, 40, 50, maybe even 60-foot waves, the worst of the century.
All right, so now you are, I know you're all over the country with, the promotions for the book, but you're in town today. You're going to be in Ann Arbor tonight, is that right?
That is correct. Rackham Auditorium at 6:30, but it's already sold out.
Oh,
so 1,000 folks. So thank you for getting the word out. Appreciate that. But tomorrow is Miami, then D.C., then Atlanta. And it's all on johnnubacon.com.
I'm sorry to leave 10 seconds for this last question, but what do you think of Michigan football this season? How are we going to be?
Better than expected. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. All right. John U. Bacon, you guys, you can find the book wherever books are sold. The latest one released today, The Gales of November, about the Edmund Fitzgerald. John U. Bacon, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Derek, thank you as always.
We are honoring the Edmund Fitzgerald with a 50th anniversary special, Brandon, on our air. That is going to hit the air in November, on November 10th. That will be there, but we will be releasing the stories kind of the week before, all culminating with this 30-minute special about the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald as it reaches its 50th year anniversary this year.
How great that matched up. That interview with John U. Bacon matched up as you're working on this. What did you learn about the Edmund Fitzgerald as you were working on these stories?
Well, everybody seems to have their own theory about why the ship sank, and there have been some prevailing theories over the years. We talked a little bit about the hatches. Did it bottom out? Did something happen with the, with the storm, the winds, the waves? What we do know is there were 29 souls that were on the ship that did not make it, and their stories are fascinating stories. You can learn more about them from John's book, of course, and then we hope to kind of introduce you to a few characters as well. When our stories hit the air the week before the anniversary, all culminating in that 30-minute special on the 10th of November.
Got to keep telling those stories of the people that were lost. That way they're never forgotten. But it's great to see that John's show is also sold out. Yeah. Because it shows that a lot of people still care and still hold the Edmund Fitzgerald close to their hearts.
Well, you think about it. This is actually very fascinating. It is the third most famous ship that sank probably in history. Yep. The Titanic, the Lusitania, the Edmund Fitzgerald.
There you go.
I mean, it's right up there, and it happened in our state in one of our Great Lakes. And so it has captured Michigan as it has captured the nation.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.